All right, I guess I'm doing this. Welcome to the June 18th, 2025 meeting of the Parks Advisory Committee. We will start with roll call. Jonah?
All right, thank you, Tiffany. Jim Hill.
Here.
Tiffany Long.
Here.
Shelley Reynolds.
Here.
Victoria Rizzo.
Here.
Woodrow Terrell may be here in a few minutes. Shirley Winters.
Here.
And myself, Jonah Jacobson, is here representing staff. Robbie Cantrell is still on leave. We have a brand new mic system in the ceiling right there.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah, so
it worked really well.
Yeah, so, and just making sure, I'm pretty sure you already responded, but Paul, you can hear us all right?
Yes, it sounds good.
Nice. Yeah. Oh, and look at that, Robbie is joining us tonight. Robbie Cantrell is present. Welcome back, Robbie. He's almost here.
I think I saw Woodrow over sure yet, but I thought it was his car.
All right, do we want to move on to number 2?
All right.
Review and approve the May 21st, 2025 minutes.
This is Shelley Reynolds. We did not receive these in advance. I would move that these minutes be taken home and reviewed and approved next meeting.
That sounds good to me. Anybody want to second that?
I'll second it.
So we are going to review these meeting minutes and push to approving at our next meeting. On to item number 3.
It's Robbie online.
Yeah.
Yeah, welcome back, Robbie.
Hello. Good to see everyone.
We're going to move on to number 3, communication from staff.
All right, good to see you all. Welcome. Oh, Woodrow Terrell just walked in the room, by the way. Woodrow is present.
Present.
And we've got a full house. Great.
Can you close the door?
Sure. All right, everybody. Well, I'm going to start sharing my screen. I've got a lot to tell you about. All of the things that the Parks Facilities Group have been working on over the last month. It's been a very busy month for us, So yeah, the first thing that I wanted to tell you about was in the last week of May, since the last time we met, we began working on a few really dilapidated sections of the Beaver Creek Boardwalk. This is a before photo, before we started working. And so there was a few sections, as I've mentioned a few times over the last year, the Beaver Creek Boardwalk is in a state of disrepair and is in need of replacement. And we began working on some sections of it because I kind of wanted to have a test case of if this is something that we can do in-house, and I believe it is. With our funding, our $40,000 funding for Beaver Creek building repairs that is part of the adopted budget, we will begin replacing this in earnest, probably piecemeal, section by section, but we will be working on it in-house throughout the next fiscal year. And I may use part of that allocation for some supplemental labor during the demolition process, because really breaking it up and hauling it out of the canyon, all of the old pieces, is really the toughest part of it. That and bringing the new material in. So I may still utilize the Trail Keepers of Oregon for part of the demolition process, that or the Multnomah Youth Corps kids. But anyway, let me get into this slideshow and I'll just show you a little bit more here. Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I'm sharing this correctly. Okay. So, this window. Sorry, I'm having a little trouble sharing the screen here. Give me 1 second. Sorry, everybody.
Just to clarify, this is the part that's like off of Beaver Creek Lane that would go down to where the old bridge was, those?
That's correct.
Wooden bridges that are on that path?
That's correct. If you go down the new staircase,
The metal staircase?
well, the metal staircase that leads to the new staircase that Trail Keepers of Oregon replaced last year, yes, that's correct.
So is this above or below the wooden staircase?
This is below, at the bottom of the canyon. It runs along the river.
This is further south from where the bridge used to be.
This is a little bit further south from where the bridge used to be. It's you know, it's very close though. In this photo here, you can see before photo as we're hauling materials down. And you can really see that like the thing is falling apart and has been, there's been some attempts at repair over many years that are really not working out. So here you can see Jonathan Villalobos, our Rockstar facilities tech, is sort of leading the build on this with the help of our seasonal staff. And he's really making the thing bomb-proof in these two sections that we did as sort of our test run to complete the rest of it. And as you can see, the end product is a lot better looking, a lot safer. And in the coming year, we're going to attempt to complete the entire replacement project.
Those like anti-slip little black pieces or?
It's just roofing comp. It's strips of roofing composite, yeah, just for traction, because it does get pretty wet down there.
There's this very similar bridge in the Bellingham Green Lane.
Oh, yep, mm-hmm.
Wooden path down there that is on its probably last legs in the next few years as well.
Well, we can definitely, look at doing that one next. And let's see here. Another thing that just took place, another path replacement that just took place this week was the completion of the Sandy Palisades path replacement. So as you can see, we have a brand new asphalt path running through Sandy Palisades Park. We do have to reseed a lot of areas. This is in the parking lot, just in the beginning of the path. Now I did have them pour this larger area. It's still relatively small pad compared to some other locations, but my plan is for a future budget allocation to install a small picnic shelter there in Sandy Palisades Park. So I figured while we had the asphalt paving crew out there, we should just go ahead and do that in preparation for that in subsequent years. And later this week, we'll turn the irrigation back on. Hopefully the trucks and skids that they had out there didn't do too much damage to our irrigation system, but we'll fix it.
Did the path stay in the exact same spot?
No, the layout has changed, and actually parts of it have been deleted. There were some kind of redundant parts of it that didn't, paths to nowhere that have since been taken out, so we'll turn those back into a grassy area. I'm gonna have some grass seed spread.
And this was due to the roots and the cracking, so this is the new area is to prevent that from happening?
It won't entirely prevent it, but it'll prevent it for some number of years. And the new path is placed further away from the root zone of trees, so it should last longer.
Same width or?
It's slightly wider. The end product seemed a little bit narrower than what was planned, but I think we were going for a 4-foot wide path, and I think it's like 3'9" or something like that. So it's almost 4 feet, but not quite everywhere. It's an improvement, certainly. I think,
Definitely wheelchair accessible.
It is wheelchair accessible. Yep, it's very smooth and
Kids
easy.
and the scooters and the bikes are gonna love that.
Yep, I imagine so. And so, moving on to some more repairs. I've got a lot of, we've been really busy with a lot of repairs out there this last month. The big one was definitely the closure of Imagination Station and the pretty much all hands on deck work that we did out there last week. Actually, you'll get a lot of pictures. I got a lot of that, yeah.
Was it warm enough? Did you get?
It was warm enough. It was successful. It was very successful, and the patches look a lot better. Please go out there and check it out. It's The color match isn't perfect. We were working with basically just whatever materials we had left in the shop. So there are some places where it's not, you know, it's not totally color matched, but it's very easy to see where the patches are at least. So here's me out there working with the crew, and there were some like pieces of metal from like old pieces of the play structure that were under some of the patches. So we had to kind of cut some of that out. There was a big, you know.
Was that the original play structure?
I think so. I think there's some pilings in there from like the original play structure. This example, I just kind of wanted to show everybody what we're dealing with underneath there, and part of the rotting organic material that is under the play structure. You can see right here under this mat, there's a layer of rotten leaves. So it looks like this was poured directly on top of fall leaves that weren't cleared out of the play area. We did find some other places where there was some bits of rotten wood and stuff. And you know, as we've been discussing the surface out there and the issues that we're having over the last couple of years, there has been discussion of, you know, cutting some test holes to see what exactly is going on. The problem with doing that was that, you know, then we had to immediately fill them. So this was a good opportunity to really kind of check out the issues that were underneath, and I did document any of that stuff that I found. And here's our parks chief operator Tatiana and park worker Nico over here. Oh, I have this laser too. This is Tatiana. That's Nico. This is Justin. He's a seasonal second year. He's been working with us, and this is Casey, who's also in his second summer working with us. And everybody worked, you know, really hard out there. It was a good, like, you know, team building exercise as well. We had a good time doing it. It's very messy and sticky material to work with. We were, you know, anybody who wanted to wear a painter's suit while we were doing it was provided with one. And but anyway, and yeah, we had to, you know, bring a generator out for a power supply as we were working. The process is basically taking a Sawzall or an angle grinder and cutting the old damaged surface out, pulling that out, compacting, you know, the shredded tire underneath it and filling any spaces underneath that, mixing the rubber mulch, the finer rubber mulch with the colored rubber cement, and then you have a short period of time to pour it into the space before it starts to get pretty tacky and firm up. So we all learned a lot about how to do this. Here's a before photo of the carousel right there. We did rent this barrier fence to keep folks out, which was mostly successful, but I'll show you a couple of photos of some local budding artists who got in there and messed with some wet patches with a little creative flair. So anyway, you know, the first day that we were out there, we were basically just, you know, cutting and prepping for the pour. The second and third and fourth days were all pouring and filling, and then the last day was all cleanup. Here's another good before photo of this like teeter-totter right here, which was pretty bad. So here you can see some of the colored patches going in before, you know, pre-cleanup, and they cured really well and are pretty solid. And yeah, here's our parks workers again. So yeah, we came out one morning and found a bunch of little footprints through the whole the whole thing, and some big circles. I'm just going to call those big circles. And here's the carousel after we patched it. We tried to do the whole thing with that beige color and ran out and ended up using some green in that corner, but while the colors aren't perfect, it is definitely a lot safer. So these are what the patches look like. Feel free to go out there and run and jump and stomp on them and abuse them as hard as you can and see if they're up to snuff. Here's that teeter-totter section that we replaced. I'll move through these faster. Here's those footprints in those big sections right there. And you know, we can fix those at a later time, but it's a lot better than the tripping hazards that we had before. So yeah, and this is it all pretty much. This is it on the last day, all cleaned up basically. So yeah, I would say it was pretty successful. I spent about $1,400 on the rental fence. I haven't tallied up all the labor hours, but I mean, it was pretty much, you know, all but two parks workers working. It was all employees except for 2 parks workers working an entire week out there. So still, I think we accomplished this round of repairs far below the price tag we were looking at for a full replacement. That being said, a full replacement is still something that's going to be required at some point. I make no predictions about how long these patches will last. I would like to think that they will be that will buy us at least 1 fiscal year cycle before we're looking at doing more work out there. And we do have enough materials left over to do 1 more round of patching. I would say probably not as much as we just did, but we accomplished basically everything out there. There's no more ankle breaking holes out there as of today. So and yeah, that was our Imagination Station replacement. So please do get out there and check it out whenever you're able. And okay, yeah, and also the summer event season began at the beginning of June with First Friday and the Art Walk. Parks workers supported the events planners with staffing through those events. And I wasn't there myself, but from what I hear, they were largely successful.
Hugely successful.
Yeah, good. You were there.
I think they extended it out to 9 o'clock on First Fridays.
Nice.
We're gonna try and shut it down at 8:30, and there were just so many people running around.
Yeah.
Of course, everybody was in line to go listen to Kevin, but
looking ahead, the only other thing that I had on my list for staff communications was that I have been in discussions with Friends of Trees about the another memorandum of understanding and scope of work document for the coming fiscal year for another round of street tree planting with a planting event sometime in the winter. And also I am discussing another round of parks tree planting. And one thing that certainly could be an agenda item to discuss in depth in another meeting would be I'm kind of thinking about Sunrise Park and frequent complaints that I get from a lot of neighbors there about some of the tall cottonwood trees that have grown in around the pond there. Cottonwood trees are generally problematic. They do get really big. They shatter in the wind and ice. They're not very strong trees. They're not very long-lived trees. It's softwood. And if there's one species of tree that I frequently have to call an arborist to remove around the city, it's cottonwoods. And so I'm thinking about removing a lot of the cottonwood trees around the pond at Sunrise Park. There's some higher quality trees that are kind of getting choked out by them. There's a weeping willow that's next to the pond that is very crowded. So I'm sure that a lot of the neighbors at Sunrise would appreciate a lot of those taller cottonwoods gone. That being said, we need to provide shade along the path at Sunrise. And so I would like to, talk to this committee about this, obviously before I make sign a deal with Friends of Trees, but I'd like to plant some like low, smaller, like pin oaks and scrub oaks that would provide shade along the path, but not really grow much taller than like 20-25 feet and would grow pretty slowly. And so that's something that I'm sure some people would not want to see happen, but I think that if we're taking out some of the taller trees that are blocking a lot of people's view at the same time, maybe they will be more willing to accommodate some shade trees for the park users. So I would welcome some discussion of that tonight, but if it's something that we want to really talk about in depth, it may take more time. So.
Sherry, I would say that it would be necessary to reach out to those around that park, especially those that would be impacted the most, possibly with views or what have you, that something in there might be, getting a little feedback from them first might be a good idea. So.
This is Tiffany. There is a Sunrise Park Facebook group page that I'm on. It's not very active. It actually, the first post that I've seen on it was about how they were happy with the care of the park. that it got taken care of, and they've never seen it like mowed that quickly, or it was about that. That would be a good place to reach out to them and invite them here to discuss that.
Can I ask, are there a lot of Sunrise homeowners in the group, or is it
I
mostly?
feel like
park
it
users?
is, it's just, I can look really quick and see how many people are in that group.
Remind me again where Sunrise Park is.
It's off of, it's like basically between Hensley, and Troutdale Road. Yeah.
You know where Arthur Academy is?
It's the big exercise park.
Oh, that's, the little stations on it.
Yep, big, big.
So my question is, is there any lighting in that park for after hours?
There's not, no, which,
So would trees make things a little unsafe, you think, if we had too much shade at night and darkness, or?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm not talking about planting trees that densely. They would be sporadic and spread out along the path. It gets scorching out there in the summer sun. So, at least creating some areas of reprieve for people, if not, obviously not shading the entire path. That would be difficult to achieve.
This is Shelley. Jenna, I'm sorry, could you clarify, you said you're taking out cottonwoods?
I'm planning to, I haven't yet.
Possibly taking out cottonwoods and just putting in other trees?
Not in the same location.
Not in the same location?
Most of those cottonwood trees are right around, there's like a detention pond that's in the center of Sunrise Park. And most of those are down there, and some of those are already, 50, 60 feet tall, a few of them. And those are the trees that I frequently get complaints about. So, from homeowners who want them gone. I was kind of thinking that those would maybe be a little token of diplomacy for getting some shorter shade trees in.
Right. This is Tiffany. I feel like below, it's not gonna affect anything.
No.
Maybe the ones above might make some of the people upset, but below, you still see a phenomenal view. I mean, even standing right in front of where the pond is, I still think there's a view. This group, Friends of Sunrise Park, is pretty small. There's only 21 members. But just so you can hear this, it was an anonymous participant. So somebody that didn't want to say who they were said, I would like to give a shout out to the parks maintenance crew. I have lived on the perimeter of Sunrise Park for 29 years and don't remember it ever looking better. Thanks for all the good work. So little kudos to your people there.
Thank you, anonymous.
That was on June 6th. So I asked back on May 12th, is this still an active group? Nobody really said anything. Nobody said anything to that. So I don't know how active that group is, but I would be willing to go out and pound pavement just to try to get people to come in here and give us their input. I don't think you're gonna upset anybody by getting rid of cottonwoods. You wanna come get rid of mine? I'll let you.
I have one that's leaning too. Could you take care of that one?
They're awful, so yeah, I don't think you'll get any backlash on that. Would you put a lot above? How many,
I'm talking, a half dozen trees, maybe.
and I imagine you would want them close to the path to stay out of the mowing areas?
Relatively close to the path, but not so close that they are gonna eventually break up the path, as the roots grow. I mean,
So what would a timeline like that look like? When would you want to be planting these? Like, how long would we have to get people's input if we were gonna try
it
to
would be in
get?
the winter, and it would be part of a Friends of Trees event. And last year's was in March 1st, early March, which is not too late, but getting to the end of the planting season. I mean, you want to plant trees while they're dormant, and basically have them wake up in the spring, to grow with the maximum amount of soil moisture, so.
This is Sherry. I don't know if the gentleman that was here last month that talked about the invasive stuff. Yeah, I was gonna say he might be even a touch point to figure out who the others might be. I mean, I don't know them, but I sort of know somebody that lives at the corner of one of the entrances, but yeah. Anyway.
Would you mind taking a screenshot and emailing that Facebook comment to me so that I can share that with the parks workers?
Absolutely, I will.
Okay,
And
thank you.
Timeline for cutting down cottonwood, is that for sure happening, or?
No, this is
timeline
just,
on that?
this is the early stages of a concept of a plan as I'm I'm developing a contract with Friends of Trees for a planting event in 2026.
So maybe once we have a planting event, we move forward with getting community input.
I would say even earlier than that. I would say maybe, but yeah, I would say, you know, we would probably want to have reached a decision about this by, say, November. Yeah. So, no.
And this, Sherry, I do think though that the idea that you're getting rid of some cottonwoods and some people will be like, yes. Then the idea of slipping some trees in there in some areas.
Little ones.
Well, I was gonna say, but maybe being pretty upfront on the locations of where they might be, so.
Ultimately, while I want to keep everybody happy, I don't want to, you know, I don't want to offend anybody who lives next to Sunrise Park. It is a public park, and there are trees, and trees do grow, and views do change. And we do need to think about all of the park users, not just the people who live next to the park, and weigh all of those things in a decision. So, you know, I'm not favoring one, you know, side or the other, and I care a lot about the aesthetic of the park for people who have to look at it all of the time, you know, who live there.
Okay, does anybody else have anything to say about that? In the room? Did anybody have any comments on staff updates online? Okay, I guess we're gonna move on to number 4, public to be heard. Comments need to be limited to 5 minutes per speaker. We will start in the room. Okay, we're being told to start online. So does anybody have any public comment online?
Tiffany, this is Paul Wilcox, Troutdale.
Welcome.
Okay. I have a few questions for Jonah, so it's enough that you might want to take notes. I was at the council meeting, this would be 2 weeks ago now, where Travis Holton was doing his presentation on paid parking at Glen Auto. And that raised some questions in my mind. One was he was talking about introducing online payment for non-residents immediately or soon before the kiosk was in place, installed. And, you know, as a resident, it wouldn't affect me, but I personally don't like the idea of online only payments. It eliminates, you know, eliminates people that don't have smartphones or whatever that don't have that capability. So I prefer they wait until the kiosks are in place before any paid parking is required. Another thing regarding paid parking is what I've been hearing from PAC was there'd be either decals or placards for people to put on their cars. And what I was hearing from Travis was people will be required to register their license plate numbers in advance. So one question I had regarding that would be how they match the license plate numbers up with the proof of residence. I know police have that capability, obviously, but I'm not sure city staff would be allowed to do that. And also with license plate registration, I was thinking there might be people reluctant to do that because some people have expired tags, which they shouldn't have, obviously, but they might not want the parking enforcement guy seeing that they have seeing the registrations are expired. I think that's all I had on parking. My other questions were based on what I was hearing from council last night, Ray Young in particular. He was talking about the progress on the park at the confluence. A couple things on that. I heard the boardwalk, what I was thinking was going to be a boardwalk underneath the railroad bridge he said was going to have a metal, a steel grate platform. I was under the assumption it would be like a boardwalk with, actual boards or Trex, kind of material. I was curious how wide that's going to be for one thing. It's just a pedestrian pathway, or it's an actual full width of the actual trail on land. And somebody asked about paving, and Tiffany, I sent you and Jonah photos from the Washougal Park, waterfront park, where they have really nice concrete for the entire pathway, which I assumed was what Troutdale was going to do, but I heard Ray Young mention asphalt. So I was curious if that's the case or if it's going to be actual pavement. I think that's covers my questions. Thanks for your attention.
Sure thing. I would be happy to address some of these to the best of my ability at this moment. I guess first and foremost, as far as the kiosk at Glen Otto goes, yes, that is the reasoning behind ordering the kiosk, is that we want to include everybody, not just people who have a smartphone. Unfortunately, the lead time on ordering the kiosk doesn't line up with the timeline directive for launching Pay to Park that has been given to both myself and Director Holton. So that we are having to do a phased rollout. It's a lot easier to just turn on the app-based system immediately with a few signs, whereas we actually have to wait for a physical kiosk to be built, programmed, and shipped and installed. So that is sort of the reasoning behind the time lag between those two things. At some point in the future, in next year, we very well may switch to a physical placard or a sticker that is given to Troutdale residents to display in their window. The reasoning behind that would mostly be in order to save enforcement resources, essentially, so that whoever's doing enforcement down there can visually see that a car has a pass and not take the time to run their plate. When they run their plate, they are doing that only within the passport software system. And maybe perhaps some of the confusion around this is coming from the word registration. That is different from your auto registration with DMV, completely separate. This is a voluntary registering of a license plate that a Troutdale resident will be able to do by going to the visitor center or City Hall, or I think being able to do it on the city website eventually as well, where they provide proof that they are a resident. Their vehicle's license plate is then entered into the database that is kept within the passport system. It shows essentially as an active paid session always. And so whenever somebody is going through and checking license plates, they see that license plate is marked as paid, essentially. So there is absolutely no connection to any law enforcement databases or any DMV databases. Those two things do not communicate with each other at all. I do not think there will be, I don't think it's likely that people will be getting a letter from DMV saying your auto registration is expired when they register to park for free at Glen Otto Park. As far as the trail goes, I know for certain that the portion of the trail that you mentioned that passes underneath the Union Pacific train bridge is going to be concrete. That portion is absolutely going to be concrete. And that will have that metal cage around it that is essentially the utility of it is to protect people from any falling debris or objects that might come off of a train as they pass under the bridge. I would like to plant some kind of like flowering vines or something on it so that someday it's all covered in wisteria or something, and it looks like, a little prettier than just a steel cage over the concrete path. I can't say for certain whether the rest of the path is, I would have to look back at the plans. I can't say for certain whether the rest of the path is going to be concrete or asphalt. Certainly the portion that runs underneath, that the elevated portion that runs underneath the bridge is concrete. It would make sense that other parts of it are going to be asphalt because it is much lower cost than concrete.
Can I just address one thing? This is Sherry. I was the one that asked the question, and what it was given back on that upraised portion was that was the steel grate, so that if the water level comes up, it comes up through it and it goes back down through it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, but you're saying it's gonna be concrete?
It's gonna be concrete, but I don't think that steel grate is gonna be, there will be sections of steel grate so the water can pass through, but it's not gonna be solid steel grate like, driving over the Hawthorne Bridge or something like that. It's not gonna be.
Okay, that's what I was thinking it was, so, okay.
All right,
Paul, would you like me to share these photos that you emailed me of the Washougal paths? It's beautiful concrete work.
Yeah, sure, that'd be nice to see.
this is Tiffany. Jonah, do we have a mock-up of what it's supposed to look like?
I could find one. I didn't have one prepared. I could look back through the plans. No, I haven't seen like a mock-up similar to the mock-up that we received recently of like the Beaver Creek Bridge. But they're making progress on it every day out there. And so, if you haven't already gone and checked it out, the real life thing is coming, into reality every day. But yeah, these are some photos. This is from Washougal, you said, Paul?
Yes, it is. I'd also mention that Washougal is almost the exact same population as Troutdale.
Are we gonna have a restroom down there?
We are installing the utility connections to put a restroom in. There was not a restroom included in the budgeted design at this point. However, I think that it's probably going to be a pretty necessary feature. I think that, with all of these little play parks, down there, it's gonna be pretty necessary that there's a toilet within walking distance if kids are gonna be, utilizing all of those apartments. So, eventually, that is the plan. I don't think that that's gonna be included in the grand opening of the park. In fact, I can say pretty certainly that it's not. But yeah, these are beautiful paths. And, yeah. It looks like they have a poured-in-place, right over here, they have a poured-in-place playground surface similar to what we have at Imagination Station.
Are the ones by the river going to be poured in place?
No, they are not,
okay.
no. And actually, first of all, I'm not sure if we would ever use that material again, given what we've experienced at Imagination Station. I'm also, I've read a couple of articles recently about PFAS in a lot of products like poured-in-place rubber and artificial turf. So it could be that in a few years' time, we're looking at preferring more natural wood-based surfaces.
This is not Washougal.
No, that's Vancouver,
That's Vancouver. Yeah.
Okay, I was like, there's no way, okay.
which used to be paved, by the way, if I remember right, and wood.
Thank you for sharing those, Paul. Those are great. And yeah, certainly anytime anybody's traveling around and sees, good examples of parks projects that have been successful in other cities, I would love to see them. Certainly when I travel around Oregon and Washington, I'm keeping an eye on parks, and happy to share some cool stuff that I see, so.
Sherry, I just want to say one thing on the concrete versus not. And that is that generally the expansion joints in concrete make it less enjoyable for the bicyclists on the skinnier tires. It's like the whole time, as opposed to just straight blacktop that's
Like Sandy Palisades.
smoother, yeah. So, I mean, again, aesthetically, maybe that beautiful concrete is more beautiful to look at. Maybe not necessarily the greatest for the bike rider. So.
That's a lot longer though.
It does.
All right, we're gonna move on to public comment in the room.
Hello. So my name is Frank Stevens. I'm a Troutdale resident since '91. I am a parks volunteer. So I've had the opportunity to work with these guys for the past, 4 months, 5 months. So I've been keeping track of some of the stuff. So I just wanted to give you guys what I've been doing lately and some of my thoughts as I get it more in the weeds on the ground. Well, actually in the weeds. Yeah.
Do you want a laser pointer?
If I want it.
That top button right there is the laser on the remote.
Yeah. Okay, got it. That way if I need to do a pointer. So I started this little thing called Troutdale Travels, which basically I'm out on my bike wandering around the city, basically looking a lot at the green space. I'm actually the Friends of Trees inspector for the summer. So I just we planted 50 trees, around 50. I inspected those, they passed all the inspection criteria for June, and then I'll inspect them again in August. And then I leave notes with all the homeowners that had the trees, giving them tips on what they need. If they need any help, Friends of Trees will come out and help them.
What do the green bags do?
The what?
The green bags.
The tree bags?
Yeah.
So the tree bag is basically a plastic bag with holes in the bottom, but rather than just pouring a bucket of water, that rapid release of water, you do a slow release, which gives it a deep tree root structure rather than just this flush of water
Are they
that
full of
usually runs
water?
off. What's that?
Are they full of water?
20 gallons, yeah. So you can do that once a week typically, and the tree will be fine. So what it does is a slow introduction of water, which if you put the skirt around it, then you're looking at that 3-foot grouping that will put the water on the outside edge of the tree roots rather than right on top of it. And that is much more effective with creating the tree roots to grow in those directions.
And are those on all the trees that were planted?
Mostly the parks. I had, strangely enough, a lot of the homeowners put the tree bags on as well. So I had 6, 7, 8, 10. I had 10 tree bags. And I noticed that one was switching from trees to trees. So as he watered each tree, he would run it right down the road.
It's a good strategy. It also really is like a reservoir for like when if there's a heat wave or something, it'll help your young tree survive. You know, have a reservoir.
Typical tree planting, 2 years of care. So, and we just upped that to 3 because of our extremes in the climate. So 3 years of keeping an eye on the tree and making sure it's watered appropriately. We do a pencil test when I go in to inspect, where basically when I poke a pencil into soil, I'll see if it comes out with enough moisture on it or totally dry. And then I look at the tree and evaluate it. I have a whole checklist. So I'm the guy for that. And then when we get into planting, I'll be helping out with planting like we did last year. Next slide. So great picture. I love this picture, by the way. So I wanted to highlight the fact I've been working mostly down with my studies on the Choctaw Trail, but it also highlighted the fact that when Sharon Nesbitt Trail comes in, we're increasing substantially at the Choctaw Trail and the Sharon Nesbitt and the trail next to it. That amount of acreage is being increased on parks with really no increase in manning. So these are things that I think as a Parks Committee we should be talking about. It should be something that's on the discussion plate of the fact that you're going to be seeing more property, more responsibilities, probably higher traffic in that area because it's going to be I think it's going to be a real tourist spot, honestly. Yeah, so we'll see where it goes, but potential future, I'm looking at enforcement, and I love the idea. I look across the river at OPRD and how they're doing it with their park ranger role, and they have a ranger that's actually, potentially writing tickets and doing enforcement. It doesn't have to be that role. It could be public safety. It could be anything along those lines. And then parking, it's like 257th, Southwest 257th, until we start the development in the congruence. 257th is really going to be it. You'll have the mall, but are we going to negotiate with the mall for parking for Sharon Nesbitt? That I don't know. So those are things that you might want to put on your plate for things to do in the future. If you look over here on this is the, damn it, I hit the wrong one. It's me. So this is basically the playgrounds that we were talking about last night at the council meeting. So we have 1, 2, and 3. They were talking about potentially a hotel right here, which would be perfect for blocking the noise from I-84. You guys have ever been down there? That shared path as it goes under I-84 is You can't hear yourself think. It's just ugly. We kept the oak trees, which is perfect. Those oak trees block a lot of the noise, and then we kept a lot of the green growth along the way. So Jonah's team really put some effort into seeing which trees to keep and which ones we should remove, which will help us out in the future with the green space, for sure, and erosion control as well. Yeah, so just realized we added 3 miles of trail that we're currently taking up now, and we're getting ready to add Sharon Nesbitt. None of that has any type of enforcement, any type of park, I mean, we have one, Ty, I think, is the only person we have dedicated to Choctaw Trail right now. And that's pulling from resources that are already working with 83 acres and 22 parks. So something to think about. Next slide. So with that in mind, we did a quick pilot project over the winter. So we were talking about invasive species. You guys had that briefing last month, I think. So I removed, and a group of us actually, like 4 or 5 guys out there, removing blackberries, and then Friends of Trees helped me out by donating plants. So we actually put in trees that are native next to that oak that I'm looking at. And then those flowers are actually native flowers. So that is part of our erosion control, but also removing blackberry, English ivy, Scotch broom, and any other invasive species. Sometimes there's a debate. We talk about enforcement concerning how do we approach particularly homelessness and camping on sites. The solution really is if you have nowhere to hide, that this open space is much more secure than if you look to the right where we have so like right here. So this spot right here 2 years ago had 6 camps behind it. There's actually a network of trails behind this blackberry bush that's about 10 feet high and 30 feet wide. It's on private property, belongs to John Meyer. And then right next to it is this part. So the goal is to basically take this concept, and it's already going to connect to Metro and Port of Portland, which is already doing the same type of work further down the trail. So by the time we get done, we'll meet in the middle, is the goal. And Friends of Trees is definitely on board to help out with that, so, as well as Port of Portland and also Metro as well. So the mitigation guys that are down there won't cost the city a dime. That's the best part. So, next slide. Future agenda items, this is right on topic with what you guys were talking about for park outreach to neighborhoods. So I'm more than happy to start knocking on doors with flyers and saying, hey, we're thinking of doing something to your park, or we want you to get involved in your park. What do you have for thoughts? Or doing a survey, or maybe even a focused group would be nice. Is my time up?
No, sorry.
That's okay. And I have training to do focus groups, and I have the research with my master's degree. So if you want to do a focus group or something like that, I'd be more than happy to be your facilitator for that. Surveys, I can do that. But this falls in line with what we're doing in the Citizens Advisory Council as well, where we're trying to create neighborhoods. And the parks are, I think, really a central theme for that. I'd highly recommend that you guys, as someone that's actually going to where these guys work, I would highly recommend we have at least one meeting in their shop, just for the sake of you knowing what it's like, what Parks is dealing with, as far as where they're at, the equipment they have, and just get a tour of the place. It's really cool. I would recommend that. And then I'd really love to see the committee start talking about, how do we connect with the community with the potential summer dog walks, coffee in the park, park to park. I want to do some bike rides from one park to another park. We did one from the trailer park or Glen Otto all the way up to the Mount Hood Community College.
RV park.
What is it?
It's a recreational vehicle.
Oh, yours is a trailer. Everyone else has RVs. So, actually your neighbor Julie and I and a couple of other people wandered up from their place. So I did basically a tour from that location up to the farmer's market at Mount Hood Community College. We could easily do that from
Troutdale, or did you go through Beaver Creek, or where'd you go?
We took Sandy Avenue up, stopped at Troutdale Elementary, picked up a few more people, and we hit school stops basically along the way. So you're seeing how we're connecting safe routes to school with parks. How do kids get around? How do adults get around? How do my 8 and 80 group basically use transportation to their benefit. Yeah. So, next slide. And these are things you guys came up with, by the way. So some of my recent projects, this was waiting for me at the Imagination Station one morning. On a Monday as I walked in, I was like, oh, that's cool. So anyway, that's gone now. We cleaned it off.
How did you get it up?
They have a kit, you would be amazed what these guys do behind the scenes, and they are literally cleaning up graffiti at least every other day, potentially.
Almost every day.
Yeah.
Not this, this is really bad. I mean, this does happen.
It's just a sign,
But-
but, yeah.
And, you know, this happens more than I'd like to say, but I mean, other graffiti that's not quite as offensive as this happens almost every day.
Yeah.
And is it like power washed off?
No, we have a kit. I mean, they have a kit that basically you can go in, grab all the stuff that you need is in a bucket, basically. And it, for me, it worked great. I mean, that and a scrub pad, and I was done in less than that. It took about half an hour to an hour of still scrubbing to clean it all off, make sure it was secure. But still, that's an hour that you're not working on parks. So imagine that in the bathroom at Columbia Park, where we have to paint the bathroom every time we have graffiti, and then so on and so on and so on. I mean, that's just a waste of time for such a small staff. Anyway, so you can see some of the plus projects. We knocked down some of the kids that created some mountain bikes in Columbia Park, unfortunately. And I love biking, but not the right spot. And then you can see we cleaned out the circle that goes around in Columbia Park and made that into a neat little design, as well as we put in some fresh flowers and cleaned up the whole area, which we continue to do. The what looks like a simple trail heading right here, this one right here. So Reynolds High School had what they called the love tree. It was a tree that had fallen down on one of the trails in Columbia Park. Created quite the mess. At one point there were homeless in there, but I never saw any, but I can vouch for picking up trash there a number of times. Finally, we just went in with a chainsaw, cut it all down, opened up the area so that as you walk by, you can actually see all the way through. Remember how we were talking about enforcement and security? Visibility is everything. So if I can create a trail like this that's still covered, so when we talked about Sunrise Park and the trees and potentially having them blocking views and stuff like that, you can work this out with pruning. You can have a pretty dense coverage and still have the shade, but still have a view. It's all in how you prune. And then Robin's Way is looking great. Yeah, that was an excellent job.
Was that Friends of Tree, or was that,
that was,
Trail Keepers?
That was actually a private contractor and so they worked around the top of the Robbins, sorry, Frank.
No, you're good. Jump in.
Sorry to jump in. Yeah, and so that was hired by the Stormwater Division because they were working around a stormwater catch basin or a retention pond right there that's at the top of the trail. And they did do like the landing at the top of the trail. So it's a huge improvement. That being said, not everybody in the neighborhood was happy about it, but you know, it's necessary to keep the stormwater retention pond functioning correctly and keeping the neighborhood from getting flooded in the event of a heavy rain.
It's a dual role. Yeah, the irrigation and the stormwater as well. And then just wanted to highlight 30 tires down on 257th. This is the urban renewal area, just down from the I-84 shared path. I called it into Metro. This guy went down and picked it up. So I was going to let Metro Red do it, but so once again,
So we just dumped tires?
yeah, so this is the kind of thing that as we get closer to the highway, you see more of this occurring. So in the future, as we get into Sharon Nesbitt Park, you're gonna see, these are some of the challenges that our parks crew are gonna be dealing with on a daily basis. So just want you guys to be aware of that. For me, it's at least twice a week where we deal with something like this. I try and utilize as many tools as I can in my tool chest to take care of it and not always rely on parks to take care of it. So, Public Works helps out a lot, and then Metro Rid is really one of my go-to guys too. So.
Code compliance, Troutdale code compliance as well.
Yeah, that's another one. Joe and Ray Young and his resource officer as well. So, yeah, so if you have any questions about that area, that's kind of my daily run. So I'm almost like a forward observer of what's going on in the area the first thing in the morning on my morning run with my dog. I have an eyes on before anyone else even gets up typically. And that should be it. Next slide. Thank you. Any questions? we didn't put anybody to sleep.
Thank you, Frank, for all your hard work around town and volunteering, not just with Troutdale Parks, but Friends of Trees and probably some other ones that I don't even know about. So.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the appointment of Parks Advisory Committee representative for the TCAP, which is Troutdale, what does TCAP stand for again?
Town Center Advisory.
Town Center Advisory Board. I'm new to this, so I'm not exactly sure how to run something like this. Shelley.
Let's
We can't do it.
start with who's already members. Not committee appointed members, actual members of the committee. Not appointed by a different committee.
Oh, I'm appointed by a different committee.
I'm appointed by a different.
You're, okay, so
We
you're,
can't do it.
okay, and you as well?
I've been the delegate from this committee. However, I may be appointed to the committee without being a delegate
Did city council make the appointments yet?
next week.
Next week. So it's kind of hard to do this before they've made the appointments, but.
Well, we can reappoint him, and then if he gets appointed,
We can pick a different
there's
person.
another one, then we'll have some more people too.
Robbie,
That's a good idea. Is that legit?
I am a full member.
you're a full member. Perfect, thank you. Woodrow,
Yes, ma'am.
are you on TCAB?
I am not.
You're not.
Let's talk about that next month.
Uh-oh.
So, Jim, I'm assuming it's probably pretty likely you're gonna be appointed, is that?
I'm thinking so, but I don't
No.
know that for certain. I haven't been told that. Well, until the city council does their thing, but,
They usually,
because I suppose you could nominate somebody now and then, well, I don't know if that makes sense.
I nominate Jim to continue his position as TCAB. I mean, and then can we just take care of this next month then if it goes through, or is that not okay?
I think it's fine, Woodrow, if Jim gets appointed to TCAB, would you be willing to step
I
in
would.
as the Parks representative?
Yes, I would.
So now we have a backup plan.
Tiffany, you did an excellent job in that discussion. Well, you asked how to lead it, so it worked out for you.
Do we want to do we have a second for Jim
I'll
to?
second.
So we had Sherry nominate Jim, stay on, and Victoria second it. And then our backup plan is if and when Jim is appointed to a permanent spot on TCAB, Woodrow would be the next person we would appoint. So do we not vote on that now? We would vote on that. if
So
it-
when you nominate somebody, you don't need a second.
Okay.
That's a
That's good
motion.
for. I don't know any of the rules.
That's a motion. You have one nomination on the floor, that's Jim. So now we do a roll call vote to see if Jim is unanimously appointed as our representative for TCAB. And then we all understand that Woodrow is willing if Jim is appointed. So Jim, you don't feel any pressure.
Do we have to do a roll call or can we do an all in favor?
No, we should do a roll call.
Okay, Jonah, can we do a roll call vote?
Sorry.
This is learning, I'm learning, this is the learning.
At least that's my understanding. Paul's up there to correct us. He knows all the rules.
I thought you had to have a second on a nomination.
On a
For,
nomination? Do you have to have a second on a nomination, Paul? I could be wrong. He doesn't know.
I'm not sure about that, but I would caution.
I thought Paul knew everything.
Okay,
just in case that is a technicality that we need, I have made a note that Victoria seconds the nomination, just in case, that's an important detail.
Cross every T and dot every I.
There we go. But it does need to
No,
be.
I-
a roll call.
what I was going to say, I would caution if you nominate Jim. Currently, Jim is recommended to be an at-large member to TCAB. If you make him PAC's representative, council might decide to go with somebody else for that at-large position.
Fair point, Paul. Your call, Jim. Did you understand what he was saying?
I understand. I nominate Woodrow then in that case.
Except,
And then if I'm not accepted, then I just get a free night a month.
we can fix that.
All right. So I think what Paul was saying, that Jim will possibly lose his spot if he's appointed as
Makes sense.
our committee representative.
City council usually goes with the recommendations. I've never not seen that.
If the opening is there and there aren't more than, yeah. I've not ever seen them go otherwise either.
Have you ever seen it, Paul? Don't they usually go with their recommendations?
Not, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
We've got a lot of new city council members, so maybe if Jim is interested in having that at-large spot, we should stick with the nomination for Woodrow.
This is Sherry, this is what I'm gonna say. Having rolled into this position only, being appointed or representing, public safety on it, there's a lot of stuff going on. I don't know how much further this is on anymore. I don't know if this is at the end or not. And Robbie might have something to say, or Victoria might have something to say on it. But I just will say that if Jim's not gonna get the other way, it would be better if he stays, because he knows all the back. There's just so much stuff. I mean, I feel like I know, you guys know, and I'm always asking another dumb question
Well,
from
he's-
me.
This is Tiffany. Jim is currently recommended for it.
Yeah, I was just meaning that we wouldn't wanna, if for some reason council ended up with somebody else and not, we would want, I just think we wanna make sure that Jim stayed on. That's all I'm saying.
I think you're gonna keep Jim on. I was there at the council, well, you were there too. I think they're
The way that I just heard Paul, or it described, was that if we keep Jim as our representative, there's a potential for council to go, well, Jim's a representative for PAC, and then give his spot to
His at-large
somebody
spot.
else, his at-large spot. So it's like 10 to one hand, 10 to the other. Do you want that large spot? You applied for it, I would assume you would want it. So I don't want to take away the chance to have an at-large spot, to have a,
I think the way forward is to put Woodrow in.
okay.
And
So are you saying so you would decline it then? Decline the nomination to go forward as our representative so that we could put Woodrow in?
The first nomination?
Yeah,
which hasn't been,
I mean, it was seconded.
yeah.
Oh, we gotta undo some stuff.
So if you want to decline that, then we can nominate Woodrow.
Let's do that.
All right,
For sure.
and you nominated, but
I would nominate Woodrow to be our TCAP representative.
and if needed, I second.
Get one in there yet.
All right, can we do a roll call vote?
Yes, one moment, sorry. Okay, for appointment to the Troutdale Town Center Advisory Board, the Parks Advisory Committee suggests Woodrow Terrell. Jim Hill, how do you vote?
Yes.
Any Long?
Yes.
Shelley Reynolds?
Yes.
Victoria Rizzo?
Yes.
Woodrow Terrell?
Yes.
Sherry Winters?
Yes.
And Robbie Cantrell?
Yes.
That is a unanimous yes.
Robbie, when do we get to see you in person?
When I don't have my nephew with me, unfortunately, from Arizona.
Okay.
All All right, so next item on the agenda, committee concerns and initiatives, future agenda items, and closing comments. Shelley?
Parks look fabulous. Y'all are doing a great job. I second the Facebook post. Otherwise, I think I'm good. Thank you, Frank, for the very nice presentation.
Likewise, all your work and your crew's work, it looks great. And thank you, Frank, for helping everywhere too.
I feel like I haven't been out enough. I'm excited to get out and check things out and see all the changes or whatever, so.
I would like to remind you guys that the city manager finalist interviews, there's a community event that's going to be,
Monday, I think.
Troutdale is invited to participate in a facilitated roundtable group conversations with the finalists on Monday, June 23rd from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at the Sam Cox Building. There was I think was on the Facebook page, and it's a little bit about each one of the candidates. There's 4 of them. So the community is welcome to go to that, and I would encourage you guys to do that. And then I was planning, hadn't attended to, table at Movies in the Park. Frank's gonna be there too. I'm putting together a binder that is very similar to what is on the website about each one of the parks, and pictures. I'm hoping to go and print in color a bunch, like all of this, so that I can put it in a binder and be able to have it at a table where the pack is represented. So if people want to ask questions, or I have ask me about this, I can actually show them where it is or show them a picture of it. It's basically everything that's on the internet with a couple of extras thrown in and some maps and how different cool trails connect to each other. So I have something to share with the community. I would love to do some sort of a wheel to, instead of just giving a piece of candy away, they have to answer a question. What's your favorite park? Or, did you know you can watch the meetings online or come to them? So I'm trying to do that too. But right now, it's possible that there might be thunderstorms. So we will decide tomorrow whether that's happening or not. So otherwise, I would be there. Thank you so much for all your boots on the ground, Frank. You're doing a great job around town. I was blown away by Robin's Way. I came around the corner and I was like, what happened? That's unreal. I was there the day they were doing it, and then I was there a few days after, and I was taken aback. I immediately sent pictures and sent them to Jonah. I was like, this is amazing. It's a lot of blackberries I won't be able to pick, but that's okay. There's other places to pick them. So that was really cool to see. It's been amazing to see all the changes that are happening. I was in the Sandy Palisades neighborhood for the big yard sale walking around, and I had planned to walk Bob that day at that park. Wasn't really conducive to walking him, so I had to wait till I got somewhere else, but looks great. I'm excited to go walk that trail. Maybe I'll take my kids down there with scooters. So thank you for all that hard work, and I think that's all I have to add.
A couple things I just wanted to try and refresh my memory on. It's been a few months, but the water and the levees, did that pass a few months ago? We were talking about redoing the levees on Columbia, and it passed?
I think you should.
So one of the things, Frank?
I can help you out with that. I'm actually jumping in with the levy board. It recently combined. Should we sit up? I just did a board meeting with the group. So they combined, they're now 17 miles long, and they combined Portland, Fairview, Gresham, Troutdale, part of the Sandy River. So that's all in one board now, where before it was separate.
District, right?
Yeah, so now it's a district, and strangely enough, one of our Gresham counselors is now in charge of that, and Eric Mueller is actually on the board, our treasurer for City of Troutdale. So they have that schedule, for mowing and the levee improvement and which sections need to be improved and when. So right now they're working on the logistics of how they're going to work together. And basically, if you want to attend the meeting, it's online. They'd go on Teams instead of Zoom. but it's great information, and for me, it's another resource for Troutdale because it's connecting. So if I'm not getting the lawn mowed at a particular time, I can ask why. And those are the guys, we have those contacts that we can.
So my thought was along those lines, but if they're gonna be removing any of the pumps or any of the other materials from the old levees and the old pump stations, that it would make really good historical and little park rest areas along the levee, so that we don't forget that we have an investment in protecting all those low-lying areas. And any of the old materials, because it's my understanding that the pump impellers are pretty big. It might be kind of cool to put out and show people and demonstrate like, hey, this at one time could do 17,000 gallons a minute, blah, 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 blah. Instead of having it go off to scrap.
Yeah.
So, I didn't know if there was, how we could, when the time is right and they start looking at what to do with that stuff.
I would say anytime, because that's a top, we could bring that up at any meeting. They're more than welcome. I mean, they do conduct exercises for in the event that we have a flood. We actually have, I think they do it 3 times a year, where they're gonna conduct exercises for the local area. How are we gonna evacuate? How are we gonna respond? And we check the stormwater drains to make sure they actually open. Those basic things. The levee itself, I think back to '96 when I was packing sandbags with the Oregon Air Guard and trying to, keep downtown from being flooded. The biggest area, strangely enough, is still close by the airport. That's our biggest issue area. Troutdale, Sandy River, we're part of it, but not as much as you get closer to the connection at Willamette, where Willamette comes in. So civil engineers actually does the construction. So that's the part that you're referring to, is when we start doing the construction, the components and where do they go. I think we could be part of that discussion for sure, especially at the city level.
And I think it'd be one thing to take, the impeller or whatever, piece of historical equipment and set it on a pad somewhere, but then also be able to, make it educational. This impeller is so many feet across and the water that was flowing through it can do this, that, and the other. You know what I mean? Just try and make it so.
It's actually, we may want to approach Metro about that as well. Reason being, I was just at Powell Butte today, and they have a perfect example of a stormwater system at the top of Powell Butte. I don't know if you guys have ever been up there. Does anyone ever get out? So, at the top of Powell Butte is an actual Metro park that highlights the water system that goes all the way from Bull Run into Portland. And it also highlights how the system itself works. So there's actually an educational step-by-step process, and it shows the actual size of the tubing that starts at Bull Run and goes all the way to your house, and how it all works.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Another thing I'd highly recommend is, I just did a tour of the water treatment plant here in Troutdale. Highly recommend you guys go down and say hi to them. They are doing some great work down there. I know they work closely with parks as well. Potentially some space down there that we could utilize. And then they're desperate for some space for their administrative stuff. When we built the building, it didn't have any computer room. So you walk in the door and that's where their computer is, which is running our system. And it's like, whoa, we need some work here. So they're putting in some bids for that, and hopefully it'll be in the budget next year. So
Awesome.
just know that I got if it's dealing with anything on the levee, I've pretty much got an idea of who's doing what. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks.
So that was the one piece I wanted to try and get an update on, is because I think that it would be beneficial.
You'd like to talk about that in the July meeting? Good.
I don't know if
Should Frank and I do some homework on those?
Well, let's let Frank and I do some homework too, and then we can, when it becomes a bigger ball of yarn, and we can bring other people in to get some input too.
Sounds good.
And no, I just want to say thank you for everything, and Frank, you did an excellent job. Appreciate seeing pictures of all the cool things you do. And I actually went out and I walked the Chalk Trail twice last week. I know, 6 miles.
How many eagle markers did you go by?
I saw a few, that's why I texted you and asked you what they were for.
Eagle markers are quarter-mile markers.
Quarter-mile marks, yeah. It's a little, so you know, your splits.
It's a painted eagle on the
A
ground.
painted eagle, It looks like a very familiar eagle. Thank you.
I continue to be impressed and inspired by Frank's service to the community. It's amazing. Everywhere I go, I see Frank. It's a good thing.
It's
And
good. Parks feeds me well.
that's good. Well, and the park spent a week on their hands and knees putting down surface in that area. Thanks for all that. That's huge. And we'll learn a lot from that and its endurance and so forth for the next time. Good work.
Bobby, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I just, well, I guess I was gonna say I second everybody's thanks to Frank, but I guess at this point it's like a fifth or sixth, I think. So whatever that is, Frank, thank you very much. And then I also just wanted to thank Tiffany as well. I think that ever since you came into the chair position, you've just been doing such a great job. So like I feel like you really stepped into the leadership and you're just driving things forward like really successfully. So thank you. And I see some like heads nodding in the room too. So I think we're all kind of in alignment there. So thank you.
Bravo, Tiffany.
All right, so hold or cancel next month's meeting. It sounds like we want to.
I think we have to, it's officer elections. If I'm not-
And all new people, we can have new people.
Yeah, we got some spots to fill, so, yeah. Okay, so hold.
Just for the sake of the voting record, all in favor of holding next month's meeting, can we?
Aye.
Okay. That passes.
And that is it. We can adjourn for tonight. Thank you for coming.
Awesome.
Good job, Tiff.
Good job, Tiff. You okay?